shore.
If you need anything. All right, test, test, 1, 2, 3, mic check. Good, good. Where's my photographer? Hatman. Hatman, how is this?
If that's too high, guys, and you want to lower it, that's...
I don't know how to do that. Oh, is it this? The one that you handed me? Yeah, it's on. Can you hear me?
How's that? Is that good?
Okay.
I know, it's not a lot of place out here. No, it's not. You got 2 markets, yeah. There's a lot of people. A lot of people, and unfortunately not a lot of space.
Put it up there somewhere.
Yeah, they didn't even want people standing over there by him while that was happening because of the way the ground was. It was better than here. Everybody's fall into this. They still stay there. This is years of story. Yeah. Bring your own shade, man. Don't fall, please.
Y'all trying to make me fall down the hill.
I tried. I practiced it already. I
Fair
promise. Okay.
Are y'all ready? I'll give some preliminary thoughts and then happy to take questions.
We just have to close to the microphones because there's a lot of noise. You guys listen?
Sorry about that. I didn't even see him. Y'all ready? Would have been devastating. And as we all know, the consequences of Chantal, Tropical Depression Chantal, were devastating as it was. Homes destroyed, businesses impaired, and worst of all, lives lost. We know of a handful of reported deaths to date. We're working with the Department of Health and Human Services to come up with a final number, and when we have those numbers, we'll of course share them with you. I'm here with Secretary of Transportation Joey Hopkins and Emergency Management Director Will Ray. Colonel Johnson with the Highway Patrol is right here. And storms like this show us what is best about North Carolina. We had these guys, the troopers. We were here with Sheriff Blackwood, Sheriff Johnson from Orange and Alamance County, Sheriff Roberson and Chatham. These guys and their deputies were working overnight, knocking on doors, getting people out of their homes, diverting traffic to keep people from falling into harm's way. And it's what shows, what reveals the truth of North Carolina, which is when people need help, the people of North Carolina will be there for their neighbors. We got a lot of work to do. We're in the assessment phase of the scale of the damage. That's something that Director Ray will be working on. There's more weather to come. There's rain coming later this week. This ground is fully saturated. We hope and pray it's not a heavy storm, but folks need to be on their toes. If you have not signed up for your county's emergency alert system, I urge you to do that. Go to your county emergency website, sign up so that if a storm comes your way, you will get alerted and can take action to protect your loved ones. The heartbreak that families across the Piedmont are experiencing this week, I know one of the victim's sons very well, and their pain is pain that we would wish on no one. So let's all do everything we can to take care over the next few days to make sure that no one else in North Carolina experiences a loss of life to this storm. Thank you for being here. Happy to take some questions.
1 second. So there's a lot of y'all, and we want to get us out of the sun as fast as possible. I do apologize, we're out here. So if folks can stick to one question if possible, and if you can give your name and outlet if possible.
And if
Thank
you have
so
a
much.
question for anyone here, it's fine.
Laura Leslie, WRAL. Are you going to declare a state of emergency, or is this a county state of emergency? And what is the difference in terms of funding and resources?
I'll let Director Ray augment my answer, but this was not a statewide event. It was a local event. A number of the counties impacted declared a state of emergency. They had the resources locally to handle it. There is an emergency response system where when they need more help, they can request it. And there were 8 different units that came from different parts of the state, from Louisville, from Stokes County, from other parts of North Carolina, to help out their neighbors in need. So there was no need for us to declare a state emergency, but I'll let Director Ray supplement that answer.
Thank you, Governor. I think, Laura, as you know, I think, and as the Governor said, the framework here in North Carolina is scalable to meet whatever the need is. And so as we looked at what the potential impact area was going to be, it was isolated to really the 3, 4, 5 counties. As the Governor said, 4 of them did declare states of emergency to allow them locally to implement some of their authorities that are needed. At a state level, our role is how do we support those local communities in meeting their needs, whether it's something like you just heard about of, is it pumps, is it water, is it setting up shelters, is it moving in search and rescue teams? And so as the Governor said, we moved 8 teams that are a part of the statewide search and rescue program in to support those impacted communities with their very specific search and rescue needs. Our recovery team is moving in today for those communities that are ready to talk about damage assessment. As you know, we have some state declaration programs that we can turn on that are based on damage assessments locally, and so those are things that we're going to assess right now as far as what's available for local units of government, what public infrastructure. I think, as you heard Secretary Hopkins say earlier, this is going to be an expensive event also for DOT, and so as we look at available support, I think our commitment is we're going to work with those local communities as fast as we can to do those assessments to determine what, at least at a state level, what resources we can turn on to support some of the devastation that folks have really have experienced over the last couple of days.
Governor, this is Clifton Dowell from The Insider. Can you talk a little bit about, seeing this under construction, what's considered sort of the boring part of government, which is infrastructure and upkeep and all that, particularly with Texas in mind? To what degree, I know recovery's big, but to what degree is government responsible for thinking ahead to avoid bigger disasters in the future?
Well, I want to compliment Town of Mebane because they built this. We've learned that this lake is normally 10 feet lower than it is today. When they were rebuilding this spillway or building a new spillway to enhance its safety, they decided to put in an interim dam far in excess of what anybody would reasonably consider necessary, but thank goodness they did. So we all collectively owe our words of appreciation to the engineers and the contractors for the Town of Mebane. Similarly, in Asheville, their big drinking water reservoir, just a couple years before Hurricane Helene hit, they put in a new spillway. Had that spillway not been installed, and it was a decision made by a couple county commissioners with local government folks back about 15, 20 years ago, had they not done that and that dam breached, the deaths would have been catastrophic. Thousands of people in this state would have died. Thank God that's not the story. The story is government came together and took reasonable precautions to keep people safe. That means we need government. That costs a little bit of money. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but it's times like this when we say, thank goodness we have a well-functioning government.
Governor Dina Harley with CBS 17 News. Obviously we're out here today, but yesterday morning people were still being evacuated from their homes. There were still water rescues, and there was a lot of questions about what your office was doing
well, in regular contact with emergency management. These storms, the immediate response is always local. It's the local sheriff, it's the local police, it's their emergency management crews, and they are in regular communication, practically hourly communication with our folks at emergency management, so that they're telling us, what do you need? Well, the water pump is out. We don't have fresh water. Okay, we're going to come and create a water distribution system in Hillsborough. We have a lot of people who've been evacuated. Okay, we're going to help you put forward a temporary shelter. We've got people who are still stranded in their homes. Okay, we're going to bring in water rescue crews from around the state. If it were a massive storm, Will would have been on the phone with his counterparts in neighboring states saying, can you send in resources to help us? That was not necessary in the storm. We were able to handle it all with North Carolina resources, but it was more than this region could handle on its own. That's how the system works, and thank goodness it worked well.
Governor Stein, 40 data suspected news. With these storms that we keep seeing, between Helene and now this storm, what is your administration doing to make sure that you're funding local emergency management services and the infrastructure for smaller towns too, along some of these rivers?
Well, I'm concerned that the General Assembly has not yet passed a budget. We're working off of last year's budget. We need a new budget that will make sure that our state emergency management is well funded. There are real funding concerns with the federal government. A lot of our emergency management personnel is paid for from federal funding. We've been working hard to secure that funding so we don't experience widespread layoffs. Real concerned about the federal government stepping away from some of the resilience investment that we need to make as a state. We know these storms are coming. They're coming with greater frequency and intensity. So what we have to do is make sure that infrastructure like this contemplates that kind of weather event so that this dam does not breach, so that it does not swallow up communities across Alamance, Orange counties. So we have a lot of investments to do. We're in regular contact with our federal partners, with the General Assembly, to try to make sure we have the resources we need to keep people safe.
ABC 45 News,
I have a question over here.
ABC 45 News, Bailey Stamos. Just being out here yesterday, speaking to the residents of Mebane, a lot of them came and visited here to see for themselves because, a lot of rumors circulating that the dam broke, it did not. Can you just give a message to people in the Triad and just in the state? I know people are very apprehensive following Helene last year. Rest assured that their government has their back.
Well, the government certainly has the back of the people of North Carolina. We also have to have people have the back of each other. And of course starts with each of us having our own back. That means listening. Listen to your local weather forecast. Listen to your local emergency management warnings. People have got to stay tuned. If you have not subscribed to your county's emergency alert system, I urge you to do so that if something comes that is unexpected, and unfortunately these storms are coming with an intensity that we are not expected, then you will get that alert and can take action. We are going to do everything in our power to keep people safe. We have a lot more weather coming this week. The ground is heavily saturated. Stay tuned, listen to your local weather, make sure that you keep yourself out of harm's way, and we will do everything we can to help you.
Governor, you had a question right here.
Yes, Erin Burnett, WXII 12 News. So talk to us a little bit about that decision making of why a state of emergency wasn't declared. Who you are working with, the National Weather Service, what that prediction looks like.
I'll hand that off to Will about the weather system, but in terms of a statewide emergency, this was a localized event, and 4 of the 5 affected counties declared their own emergencies, which gave them the authority they needed to respond accordingly. We stand at the ready to help any local government that is in need, and Will was in repeated conversation with his counterparts at the local level to make sure we were getting them the swift water rescue teams, we were getting them the water, we were getting them the emergency shelters. Whatever it is that they needed, we were on to deliver. But Will, I'll let you talk about the weather.
Thank you, sir. So as you've heard us talk about, when I say the state emergency response team, that's not just the state EOC in Raleigh, that's not just something we stand up, every now and again. I think that's the steady state partnership that we talk about, local, state, tribal, federal, private sector, nonprofits, and our volunteer agencies. And again, I think we stand here today and we see a public-private partnership. The public works staff, your local government is very much a part of effective preparedness and response, as is our private sector, to make sure that we're protecting everyone. And so that team is, as the governor said, ready to support our local communities with whatever they need. We had the authorities that we need based on the scope and impact of the event to be able to move the teams that our local community said we need help with. We were able to do that. And we're able to work with our partners with the National Weather Service, with the Weather Prediction Center, and other forecasting agencies to get real-time operational impact information of where we're seeing flooding, what the different levels of rainfall are. They are very much a piece of what we're doing, not just as we look at the forecast, so a couple days ahead of time, but they are actually part of the response as we're moving through, making sure that we at the state level, as well as our local communities, have the best situational awareness that they need to be able to make the right operational decision, to get those resources in where they need as quickly and as safely as they can.
Morgan, this has to be the last question.
Yeah, I got you. Last question.
So, Governor, we know the dam was at risk of critical failure, and we just heard town officials talk about how it wasn't designed to, handle this kind of rain. I know that you spoke about rain coming on Wednesday. What's being done in the interim? Like, how are you all preparing for Wednesday's storm?
Yeah, well, what they have pumped here, and they're looking for more pumps to lower the water level so that if there is an unexpected amount of rain, the lake can hold it. And they're already working to repair the spillway so that it holds in case of more rain. Obviously, people need to stay attuned to what's going on. We think that we're in a situation where it can be handled, but please listen to your local weather, listen to your local emergency alerts to know whether you need to take action. Thank you all so much for being here.
All right. Thank you, everybody. If you have any more additional questions, you can reach out to govpress@nc.gov. We will be answering questions there. If you have any
they will be arrested. So this whole park has been closed for about a year now, and it is still closed. They should not be anywhere in here.
Great work, guys. You guys killed the game today.